all Bonami's family, great supportive community, close-knit caring family. We're non-judgy, blanket fuzzy, stigma-free. All Bonami's family, friends, family, and community. We all Bonami's family, teaching, sharing is our key. Great big thanks to you all.
Hello, and welcome back to a new season of Stigma Stompers, Erie County's one and only podcast. Obviously, we're in a new space. It's the new year, new space. Happy New Year. Happy 2026.
Happy New Year.
Welcome back. Thank you for continuing to watch us and learn more about the resources available here in Erie County. Today we have with us Jay Burrows from Glenbeigh. So I'm going to let him introduce himself and then we'll just get right into it per usual.
Hi. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
My name is Jay Burrows. I'm from Glenbeigh. I'm the program director at the Glenbeigh Outpatient Center in Erie. I'm a licensed clinical social worker, a certified alcohol and drug counselor, and certified clinical supervisor.
Perfect.
Awesome. So can you start off by telling our listeners and us a little bit about yourself and, what inspired you to get into mental health and addiction treatment field?
Well, the story goes, I went back to school late in my mid-20s, and I actually went to school for marketing public relations. And I graduated in 2010, and that was right when the economy wasn't doing so well, and there was just no jobs. So I ended up getting a job as a house manager at Glenbeigh, and realized that a lot of people needed help, and I could help some people get back on track and better their lives. And I thought the best way would be to do counseling. So I decided to go back for my master's degree, and that's how it all started. Because drug and alcohol always made sense to me. Out of all the mental health fields, it was easy for me to make it logical. If you do this, then this. And it seems like, and I know it's way more hard than that. If it was that simple, nobody would have a drug and alcohol addiction. But at least there's a map set out that's been working for a long time. So
Yeah, definitely.
And we work very closely with Glenbeigh, so I love to hear that. I mean, they're tremendous individuals that we work with there, and mental health and drug and alcohol abuse is co-occurring. And for those who aren't too familiar, maybe haven't watched our previous podcast, that just means that they both exist at the same time. So
One doesn't necessarily mean the other.
Yeah, but it can.
More often than not.
Yeah,
I would say.
Yeah.
For anyone that isn't familiar, can you give us kind of an overview of what Glenbeigh offers and the kind of services and programs available?
Sure. So our main hospital is in Rock Creek, Ohio. So it's exactly an hour and 3 minutes from Erie if you drive like I drive. Now, I'm not going to say that's the speed limit or not because I'm going to plead the fifth. But an hour and 3 minutes about is what it takes. We have 185 beds. We do full detox and residential treatment. We can take some harder cases just because of the way we're set up. So we could take some clients who have insulin or oxygen tanks or in wheelchairs, stuff like that. We can accommodate clients like that. Mm-hmm. We can detox pretty much anything. We have specific protocols just because, drugs have changed in the field. We have specific protocols for xylazine, for kratom. Some of the other drugs, the designer drugs, we have specific protocols for that to keep the clients comfortable while they're detoxing. Mm-hmm. We accept all major insurances, all major commercial insurances, plus we take PA Medicaid and we take Medicare. Mm-hmm. So we can help pretty much everybody. And we are contracted with a lot of the counties in Pennsylvania, including Erie County. So we can pretty much help you if you have a need. In our inpatient, we have some really great specialty programming. We have a track for first responders where the counselors are actually EMTs themselves. They deal with firefighters, police officers, those struggling with that kind of specific trauma. Mm-hmm. We have an older adult program, which for adults 65 and older, and we deal with those issues that arise towards the end of, I don't want to say the end of life because 65 is pretty young, but for those that are older, deal with retirement, transitioning out of the work field, death and dying, stuff like that. And we also have medical professionals track where our counselors are versed with working with the different boards for doctors, nurses, stuff like that. At our outpatient in Erie, we're right off of Peach Street, and we do intensive outpatient and outpatient. And so it's you can get sober just an outpatient, or you can get sober an inpatient. Whatever it takes to get you sober, that's what we support. So, yeah.
Can you explain the difference between outpatient and then intensive outpatient?
Sure. So intensive outpatient is at least 3 days a week. It's at least 9 hours of programming. So 9 to 12 hours of programming. Outpatient is, I believe, 3 to 6 hours of programming a week. I'm not quite sure of that exactly. But intensive outpatient, for example, at Glenbeigh, it's Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday from either 10 to 1 or from 5 to 8. So it's 3 hours a day, 3 days a week. When you go to aftercare, it's a step-down level of care. So you have a group for an hour and a half twice a week for 6 weeks, then an hour and a half once a week for 6 weeks, and then you graduate. And the cool thing about Glenbeigh is after you're an alumni, you can come back for free as long as you want. And we have 2 alumni, both with over 10 years sober, that come back every week to the group. So it gives hope to the people. Yeah, it gives hope to the people that are still struggling with it.
That's very cool. I like that. It's like a diverse group. It's not just kind of all people in the thick of it.
Sure.
It's the hope that someone that has already been through the exact program that they're going through, seeing them succeed after. I like that a lot.
Yeah, I mean, at the core of Glenbeigh's programming, we've always been abstinence-based and we've been 12-step based. Now, it's one of those things where I would not be telling the truth if I said you had to do AA or NA to get sober, or Smart Recovery or Celebrate Recovery or any of those sessions, but I do honestly feel it's the easier route just because you get that extra support from people. So it's all about other addicts and alcoholics helping other addicts and alcoholics. You know, they do all the work. We just point them in the right direction.
I love that. I do want to ask a little bit more about the program with where you deal with first responders.
Sure.
I know we did an episode previously on talking to, I think he was the chief of the fire department.
Yeah, Greg Purchase.
Yeah.
He was also social worker.
Yeah. And we talked about how difficult it is for individuals to ask for help when they're in the first responder field. So what have your results been with that program, if you don't mind telling us more?
It's been really successful. You know, focusing on the specific traumas that only they know really helps. And I also think that having someone who is a first responder being the counselor helps too. You know, there's rules and regulations for first responders just like any other field. So they're versed in that part and they can help navigate that stuff. That's one of the main goals of the specialty programs, is to make it so the clients can just focus on getting sober, not have to worry about work, worry about licensing boards, stuff like that. We help them with that. We help them navigate that. But it's been really great, like targeting that specific trauma and letting them know that it's okay to ask for help. You don't always have to be the strong one all the time. That's probably one of the reasons why you are still struggling with addiction, is because you're trying to control everything, and letting go out and needing control is the main thing, one of the main things for getting sober. So
yeah, we operate under the kind of like peer-led philosophy as well. So in order to facilitate any of our programming, if you want to facilitate family to family, you have to have lived experience with a family member who is struggling with their mental health. Or if you want to lead a peer support group or a peer-to-peer class, you have to be a peer who has struggled with mental health. So I feel like the peer evidence-based programming works pretty well.
Yeah.
Because anyone can get up there and like recite from a piece of paper, but
100%.
if you don't have the lived experience, then not that it invalidates, but it doesn't. I don't think it hits as hard.
And you know, working in the field, a lot of the people in the field are in recovery, and you know, a lot of people aren't. It's a pretty good mix, and you know, I have to say that there are some extra challenges sometimes when you're not in recovery and you're doing drug and alcohol treatment. You know, a lot of people want to know that you are also fighting the same fight and also being sober.
Yeah.
You know, with that being said, you know, we're trained to overcome those challenges and just, you know, be as transparent as possible, listen to the clients as much as possible. We're not rewriting the book here. Like everybody's been doing the same drug and alcohol treatment, similar drug and alcohol treatment for years and years and years. So it's just a matter of if they know you're not full of it, they're going to respect you. You know, if they know you respect them, that's with anybody, not just clients. It's anybody. So that's what we have to we help focus on. But it is great that we can hire people in the field that have that experience in the past, that are in recovery, and have that insight, because sometimes somebody only can relate who's in recovery.
Yeah, definitely.
And I do want to ask, is it a referral program, or can individuals themselves just reach out to you guys to get the help, or is it varying on the program?
So anybody can call Glenbeigh. If you just Google Glenbeigh, we have an 800 number. You can call our outpatient center in Erie, and we can help you get the inpatient if you need it. We can do assessments in Erie and let you know, if we feel like you need inpatient or not. But we also work with local agencies, so we get a lot of referrals. The greatest thing about working in Erie, and this is different than a lot of other places, is all the marketers and all the bosses sort of work together. So, at least in my experience. So it's one of those things where, like we mentioned, Gadenzia. If we can't accommodate or help a client, or if the client's better fit for Gadenzia, we'll call Gadenzia. It's not like it's not like in some other places where, unfortunately, clients are looked at as a number or looked at as money. It's who can help who.
Yeah.
That's why it's so nice being Glenbeigh is a nonprofit. So it's nice being a nonprofit too, because then, we do have the ability, if we need to scholarship people, get them the help they need. But so the referral process, going back to that, is really, it's an easy process, because, all of us are friends. So, and we're all fighting the same fight. So say we have someone who is for example, at Glenbeigh, we can accommodate MATs, but we don't have a methadone license for our inpatient. So say if I get someone who's on methadone and they want to stay on methadone, but they want to detox off their other drugs and stop their other drugs, then I'll call. I have 5 people I can call and say, can you help them out? And out of those 5 people, we can get a bed the same day. So that's how it all works.
That's how it should work.
It is how it should work.
I feel like the competition for clients is in that field. It's not how it should be operating. No. And you hear some horror stories about some other states and how they actually, pay people money per head, and it's unethical to me. Ethics is what I roll by. Yeah. We want to help people, we don't want to look at people with dollar signs in our eyes, because that's not what it's about. So you're in the wrong field if you do that. Yep.
So.
Absolutely. I do love that about Erie. It's so small, and that everyone helps one another. So we're very fortunate to have so many amazing programs to help individuals, and that the organizations are willing to work with one another.
One thing that's really great, we have the Drug and Alcohol Coalition, and I know there's coalitions in other places, but our coalition's cool because we have NAMI's there. The mental health, it's drug and alcohol, but all the mental health providers are there. The case management providers are there. So we all work together with everything, which is great.
Yeah,
absolutely. So you guys take an holistic approach to treatment. Can you explain what that means in practice for people you work with?
Sure. So ultimately, if you don't address the initial physicality of it, nobody's going to be able to get sober. They have to be clear-minded to get sober. So, the first step is to determine whether they need detox, and if they do need detox, to offer them detox. But I'm going to take a quote straight from AA. It's a thinking problem, not a drinking problem. So, you want to address. It's not just don't do drugs, don't do alcohol. Just say no. It's not all that stuff, and that stuff's awesome, and that's at the core of it. Because if you don't pick up, then you're going to be okay. That's the goal. So, but you're not really okay if you don't just pick up. You have this stuff that caused you to go out in the first place. Addicts and alcoholics, a lot of them start off, it doesn't matter how they start off, but most of the people that I work with, almost everybody I've ever worked with in the 15 years I've been doing this, it's not even fun anymore. They're not having a good time getting drunk and high. They're just being numb. They're running away from something. Now, our job is to determine what that is and to approach it from that aspect as far as the counseling goes. And tied in with the counseling, there's also the mental health piece. So one thing that we do at Glenbeigh, which is really great, is every client that comes in gets a psychiatric evaluation, whether it's a dual diagnosis or not. That way we can determine if they need medication adjustments, if they need changes, because you have to address that aspect of it too. And then so you have the mental health being addressed, and then you have the drug and alcohol, don't do drugs being addressed, and then you have the underlying trauma that's being addressed. One thing we do at Glenbeigh, which is different than a lot of places, is we do EMDR at Glenbeigh. So we do it both inpatient and outpatient. It's cool because I'm an EMDR clinician also, and and I've worked some time in inpatient doing EMDR and something like that. It's cool seeing the different dynamics and how it's more raw in inpatient because they're more raw. They only have a little bit of time sober, but it's so necessary. And the approach has really been great for us. It's really been helping with a lot of people with trauma, stuff like that. Anxiety, it works quick. It works effectively. So that's one thing that we do as a holistic approach too. And then we have family and spirituality. Spirituality is a hard thing for a lot of people. We make sure that everybody knows that this is a spiritual thing, not a religious thing. If you do have a traditional religion, that's great, because then you sort of have a moral compass of how you should act. And you have something there already. But for someone who's newly in recovery, their drug of choice is their higher power. It's controlling everything they do in life. Mm-hmm. So you need something to replace that when you eliminate that. So we work with clients also who are struggling with religion and stuff like that. We have a group, 12 Steps for Non-Believers, so they can actually approach the steps with a different way. Because I'm not sure if you're familiar with the 12 Steps, but it says God right in the 12 Steps. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people have problems with God. And we do that to overcome that. And then the third part of the holistic approach is, offering new healthy lifestyles choices. Everybody is required to get up and go to breakfast. Whether they eat or not, they're still required. They're required to clean up their room. They're required to go to lectures. They're required to be on time to things. We encourage them to do AA and NA meetings in inpatient. We encourage them to do all the stuff that they need to do, because a lot of times when somebody's addicted to drugs or alcohol, their whole schedule's shot. Like it runs their whole life. So we approach it like that with that part of it also.
I love that.
Yeah.
That's a lot of amazing things that you guys do. So what specifically do you think that sets Glenbeigh apart from other organizations?
Well, all those things. That's one of the things that sets us apart. We strive for communication. To communicate with referents and family members and keep them in loop. And we also, we are a Cleveland Clinic affiliate, which is nice. I just wanted to mention that, throw that out there. But we also have a great extensive family program. So we have in-person family programming on Sundays. We have, which the first half is just for families and the second half is for families and the patient. We have Zoom family meetings just for Zoom family members only. At our outpatient, we have family group. The family members actually come to group with us in the same group. And then we have something that's really great I wanted to mention. We have a family program just for family members and loved ones of somebody struggling with addiction. And you do not have to be involved with Glenbeigh at all to participate. It's the first and third Friday of every month.
Oh, wow.
And it's from 5:30 to 7:30, so it's 2 hours, first and third Friday. And as long as you know someone that is an addict or alcoholic, you're allowed to come. And it's run by an actual counselor.
That's amazing.
That's really great.
Yeah.
I feel like mental health and addiction as well, the family support and having like at least one person there to like check in and support you and be like, it's okay, or to drive you to a meeting or to do whatever. That support is crucial. So important. So having all of those programs for family members, for them to be really involved in the treatment too, that's so incredible.
Plus, it's a family disease. So, the family is just as sick, if not more sick, than the addict and alcoholic. And I say that because if the addict or alcoholic does what they're supposed to do, they're going to be a different person. They're going to change. They're going to grow. If the family member doesn't do what they need to do to change and grow, it's not going to work, because they're going to be stuck in the past with anger and resentment. They're going to be stuck assuming the worst case. They're going to be filled with blame, guilt, and shame. So that's why we're so big on the family program too, because they need a place to dump. And while they would, the more intense programs are when they're obviously in group together, because then we can have that confrontation. in a good way. I hate to say confrontation because it's discussion. That's what the word. But for them to be able to just come and say, like, this is horrible, you know, I really don't like them right now. That's okay, because it's not that they don't like them, they don't like the addiction. And it's not that they don't love them, they hate the addiction. So, like, you know, we help them separate that. And we also help them detach with love. Like Al-Anon and Nar-Anon. You know, it's not about, like, leaving the addict and alcoholic in the dust. It's about not living with their addiction. I'll support you if you want to be sober, but I'm not going to support you using. And that's what it's all about. So.
Yeah. I feel like the, I guess, I don't know another word, self-care component for family members is huge too.
Huge.
You can love your family member as much as you want, but everyone needs to be willing to go get the help,
100%.
family included. So,
and that's the really hardest part, because Al-Anon and Nar-Anon, I mean, I always joke, I'm not paid by Al-Anon and Nar-Anon. I just advertise it because it works. It needs to happen. And Al-Anon and Nar-Anon, it's so hard because often family members will say, I'll do whatever it takes to help them get sober. So I say, go to an Al-Anon meeting. No, I'm not doing that.
that's what it takes.
So, and that ties into the stigma, you know, because, you know, and it's frustrating, but I understand why. You know, you get a lot of, it's not my problem, it's their problem. Well, it is your problem. Think about how it's affecting you. And that's a hard part with drug and alcohol counseling in general is it's a specialized field on purpose. It's more blunt, just to be blunt. It's more blunt. It's like, you know, this is your reality. So you have to accept your reality and work around your reality, you know, because it's not going to be okay. You know, it's not one of those things where if we'll get you through this, you'll be fine. You're not going to be fine if you're using drugs and alcohol. You're going to end up institutionalized, incarcerated, or dead.
Yep.
That's what it's, so that's why all this family stuff is so necessary too, because they need to understand how it affects them also. So
Definitely. So you touched on it a little bit about stigma, but stigma surrounding addiction and mental health can be a huge barrier, as we know.
yeah.
Where to go? Oh, in your experience, how does stigma show up in the community, and what can we do to kind of break that?
All right, so stigma is horrible in the community. We've had events in the past just to raise awareness and had people protesting events. So one event that sticks out is the county was giving out Narcan, and people were actually yelling and throwing rocks at the county. And I'm only laughing because it's so ridiculous. And I understand, and I think it's ridiculous because it's a mental issue, it's a disease, it's an illness, and you know, you get a lot of hate towards why don't they just stop? And I think that I understand the frustration. I think a lot of, in my opinion, a lot of what happened, the blessing in the past, before there was treatment centers, you know, there was AA and NA. They're anonymous. So that's the appeal, and that's what made it so great. But that also was sort of a detriment because nobody knows. Everybody just looks at the stereotypes. Like when you think about an alcoholic, they're in a brown bag of the burn barrel on TV. You know, you think about somebody who's an addict, they're in a gutter. And like that's not reality. The reality is all walks of life are affected by this, and the society as a whole does not understand that. And people are upset for lots of reasons, for different things. You know, one of the arguments is like, why should people get free Narcan when my insulin isn't free? The question should be why isn't your insulin free? So that's where people, so instead of...
like you're mad at the wrong thing.
Yes.
You're mad at the wrong person.
100%. And, you know, we need to come together as a community and help people. And I think the more education in public and the more awareness by everybody will lessen the stigma big time. Now, there's also stigma in the community of addicts and alcoholics themselves. You know, there's the stigma of getting caught, the stigma of, and I think a lot of it's fueled by society's stigma. We try our best to overcome that, and you know, just help the clients understand that it is a disease, that it is not a choice. It is something that needs to be addressed. It is terminal, and it will kill you if you don't address it. It doesn't go away. You can just address it, and getting outside of their head and overcoming that stigma. The go-to meetings, to tell people that they need to tell. You know, I always say you don't need to take out a billboard on Peach Street and say I'm in recovery, But if you go to work every Friday and they say, come up to the happy hour with us every Friday, it's a lot easier to say I'm in recovery, because then they'll stop asking you to go to happy hour, then the temptation to go to happy hour won't be there. So, people, places, and things, stuff like that. So stigma as a whole, mental health stigma too. People do not choose to be addicts. People do not choose to have mental health. A lot of people in society feel like everything's a choice. And it makes me worried for those people, because what happens if they need help? What happens if their family needs help? They're probably not going to reach out for help because they're so set in their ways. So I think overcoming the stigma is the hard part.
Yeah.
So I think all of us working together to do that.
I think it's so easy to say, they should just stop. But when we think about it, we all have bad habits and we would like to stop them, but it's not that easy. It's, like you said, an addiction. It's something that even if you want to stop it, it's something stronger than you that you can't help without the proper help.
And the disease of addiction gives you an actual change in your brain chemistry. So the drugs and alcohol give you a change in your brain chemistry. That's why I've always been a fan of abstinence-based, just because, once your brain is there, it goes back there. So, you pick up and you relapse. That's why it's progressive. So that's why, the majority of people get to the point where they need inpatient, and this isn't the hope. I hope nobody relapses, but if they have a relapse, the reality is you probably need to go back to inpatient. And that's a lot of that stigma too, because the family members don't understand. They're not educated. Loved ones don't understand. Employers don't understand. They might give you like one crack at it. Here's your shot. Now I understand that, employees have to run a business, but that's not how it takes more than that sometimes. And it doesn't mean that the person's a failure if they relapse. It doesn't mean that stuff. But all this society says, do it now. Just stop. Just do it. So I think if we all keep working together, more awareness. I think the opioid epidemic actually raised awareness big time. I wish it never happened, but it did, because people were starting to realize, it's just not that stereotype. It's, people I love and respect are struggling with opiates, and then. And the irony about our society, I think, is that there's really not a lot of stigma surrounding alcohol. And
it's almost encouraged.
Yeah, it is. I mean, what do you do when you're 21? You're supposed to go drink, right?
As much as possible.
Yeah. And I'm sure you guys are aware, alcohol is the worst thing to detox off of. Alcohol is literally can kill you instantly from detoxing. It would be the only thing that we say, you need to continue to drink until you come to detox, because it's dangerous to stop. So I think society as a whole needs to wrap their minds around things a little differently. Now, as far as in the community for drugs and alcohol, there's still some stigma in the world of MAT versus non-MAT. So, Suboxone, methadone versus non-Suboxone, methadone. I know that stigma is still going on. I know that is still going on. I don't know the extent of it, because I myself am not in the program. But, from talking to everybody, clients, talking to other people who are in the program, that's still there too. So now, I'm a big fan of abstinence-based, but also MATs are necessary for some people, and MATs can change your life for a good way. We're not opposed to MATs at Glenbeigh. We just lean towards abstinence-based. We can actually help. We can accommodate clients with Suboxone. And one thing we really push, we love Vivitrol and naltrexone. When it comes to Suboxone, we're a big fan of the Sublocade shot and the shot. Anything that you can do to fight the addiction, because the addiction, there's no chance of diversion. And it's not like the person is setting out to divert, but it's that chance to abuse it is there. So we try to eliminate it. That's why we're big on the shots. And Vivitrol is great because it's non-mind altering.
Yeah.
That's important to talk about. I was not aware of that before today, so thank you for sharing. Yeah.
Oh yeah, Vivitrol is naltrexone. Are you familiar with naltrexone? So it's extended release naltrexone. So it's in a shot form. So instead of taking naltrexone every day, you take it once a month. And we're a big fan of it because addiction is cunning, baffling, and powerful. With naltrexone, you can just stop taking it for a couple of days, and then you can go get high if you choose. With a shot for 30 days, you can't. So it's like, and it helps becomes the cravings. And Vivitrol was actually made for alcohol also. It's similar receptors, so it helps with cravings for alcohol too.
Oh, that's amazing. Well, thank you so much for sharing.
Yeah.
I feel like society as a whole, just like a comment, everyone is one terrible event or like one really awful day away from becoming the people that they look down upon.
100%.
Like, it could happen to literally anyone tomorrow.
Yeah.
It could happen today. It could happen to anyone. Yeah. So I feel like everyone just needs to become more compassionate to others. Mm-hmm. Like, you have no idea what that person went through and why they're now drinking from a brown paper bag sitting on the side of the road.
Yeah.
Like, you have no idea what their life was like. And even if they had the perfect life, that could still become them. So
yeah.
The lack of understanding and lack of compassion for just like other human beings is always astounding to me.
Alcoholics and addicts are good people. They have a bad disease.
They're people. They're just people are people.
Some of the people I respect most in my life and think are the best people I know are in recovery. Mm-hmm. You know, and it's such a bad disease because it affects your family members and loved ones so much. Like, somebody in their right mind would not steal from their loved ones. They're not in their right mind. That's the point. Mm-hmm. You know, so it's hard. That's why the family's so necessary. Mm-hmm. Yeah,
definitely.
And we touched a little bit on stigma.
Yeah.
So do you have a message to individuals that might be watching and struggling with some sort of addiction and are afraid to ask for help because of the stigma still out there?
Yes. So one of the greatest things, in my opinion, in our society was HIPAA. So, like, it's 100% confidential. We're not going to tell, nobody's going to know, nobody's going to tell you, go talk about you at home. You know, like, it's 100%, first and foremost, 100% confidential if you inquire about stuff. Second of all, one thing I used to say to a lot of clients, especially clients who were struggling with going to AA meetings and NA meetings, struggling with the treatment, what if I see someone that's there that I know? They're there for the same reason. And you're probably going to see someone there you know, because people don't talk about it. Mm-hmm. Because just as it would be weird to go in and say, to lead with a conversation, "Hi, I'm Jay, I have cancer." That's a little socially awkward, you know, unless you're at a cancer event, you know, like, and so you don't need to go and say, "Hey, I'm Jay, I'm an alcoholic and addict," in a normal setting, you know, like, people do not, you know, your confidentiality is covered. You're safe. Anybody who's there is there because they need the same help that you need. Mm-hmm. Anybody who's helping you doesn't judge you at all. So that's what I gotta say. It's pretty secretive if you want to keep it secretive. Yeah. You can. And
seeing someone, like, if you're seeing someone there that you know, then you're both seeing someone that you know. So
100%.
Then you have something more in common with them.
Yeah.
So that could even build a stronger connection to that
100%.
person, however you know them.
100%. Yeah, and that's why we have our one thing I want to mention too, in Erie we have a professionals track where it's people with a license. So it could be doctors, social workers, anybody with a license through the state is in there. So we do that also to overcome some of that fear too, because, you know, when you're in a state and your livelihood is based on this license, police officers, for example, we get a lot of police officers who are like, well, I might have busted some of these people who are in there when they did something bad, and now I'm in there, and it's usually never awkward because it's so anonymous, because we don't say that this is so-and-so group, he's a police officer. Like, if they want to say that themselves, they can, but they don't need to. You know, it's all about disclosing what you want to disclose and feeling comfortable enough to do it.
Yeah, people only know as much as you tell them.
Yeah.
I know a lot of times individuals are afraid of what if they lose their job because of the substance misuse or addiction that they're going through. Is there ever a situation that you guys have to intervene where maybe it is dangerous for individuals, so you have to reach out to the job, or do you guys not do that part?
Yes, there is. Well, one of those examples is we're mandated reporters, and we're also obligated to report certain things. So when you, like the professionals, for example, you know, when you have doctors and nurses and you know that they're actively using and actively in addiction, you have to report it to the board because other people's lives are at stake. Yeah. So that's one of the situations. Other than that, legally we can't unless you sign a release. So the only time is a situation, you know, being a mandated reporter, if the client someone else, our child's welfare is in danger, we got to report it. So I wanted to put that out there too, because if you did some stuff you're pretty ashamed of during your act of addiction, what happens in group stays in group. You know, we're not allowed to tell people. Our licensing boards tell us we can't, you know, and just being an ethical person says we can't, you know. So that's it's not easy, but you know, they're protected. So,
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Obviously, you would recommend Glenbeigh.
Yeah.
But what are some other local or maybe national resources for anyone that may be not from Erie?
Well, we have a ton of resources in Erie, actually. And even though they're not in Erie, we have a ton. I mean, like we talked about, we have Glenbeigh, there's Snug Harbor. Those are both for inpatient treatment in Erie. Glenbeigh does detox. As far as detox goes, you got just Mill Creek Community Hospital up the street for detox only. And they refer out to a bunch of different places. Acadia Healthcare, which is like White Deer Run, Cove Forge and stuff, is in this area. Pyramid. Now that I name them, I didn't realize there were so many people. But you know,
There's a lot,
Safe Harbor for dual diagnosis clients, and Stairways for dual diagnosis clients. Oh, I wanted to say too, we can accommodate dual diagnosis clients at Glenbeigh, but we're not considered dual diagnosis. But we address all those traumas and the underlying stuff. It just, you know, with the different licensing regulations in Ohio, we have to have different rules, so we're not considered dual diagnosis. So
Definitely.
Awesome. So for family members, I know you touched on some of the programs that you guys have, or loved ones who have someone who is struggling with addiction. What advice do you have for them, and what other resources do you suggest for them to take advantage of?
First and foremost, go to Al-Anon and Nar-Anon. It teaches you how to make those hard decisions. It gives you the support you need to make those hard decisions. Secondly, I would say call somebody. Okay, so your family member, call up Glenbeigh. Tell them your situation. Somebody will talk you through it on the phone. You have to detach with love. You have to stop enabling. If your enabling can lead someone to use until they die. You know, I know that's the biggest fear with a lot of family members. Like, I can't kick them out on the street because they're gonna die. Well, the reality is they're often dying in your house, you know? So I've seen the tough love work more often than not. I've seen many people get kicked out on a Friday and go to rehab on Saturday, over and over and over again. On the adverse, I've seen people who had a place to stay and had unlimited money use until they die. And you know, we don't want anybody to die from this disease, you know. So that family members, go to Al-Anon, Nar-Anon, it will teach you how to do that. Come to family programming whenever there is. If your loved one's in family programming, when you set that stipulation and you say you're going to treatment, you're gonna make a stipulation also that I need to be involved in your treatment. So those releases are signed, so the counselors can keep you in the loop, the program can keep you in the loop. That's another main thing. Don't be afraid. Don't feel bad. You're helping them. Don't feel bad when you have to kick them out of the house. It's to save their life. It's not because you don't love them, you just don't love their addiction and you refuse to live with it. It will kill family members too. I've seen family members with so much stress that they can hardly function. They've lost their jobs and stuff. And meanwhile, the addict and alcoholic's active in addiction, just getting numb, and you're sitting there killing yourself also. So that's my main advice. Ask for help. Don't be ashamed. Reach out to someone you trust for support. Talk to your loved one. Be like, my son, my husband, my wife, my daughter is going through this. You know, get that support you need. That's what I would say.
I feel like family members attending the groups is important because it also shows them that they're not alone in what they're going through. But it also shows them that their loved one isn't the only person going through it.
100%.
So like seeing that everyone is not alone and that there's actually, unfortunately, a lot of other people going through the same thing, I feel like it's incredibly validating, and just going, even if you don't speak or what, I don't know how the groups run, but even if you just go and sit there and just listen to all the other people, you won't feel as alone.
100%. And, and you get support from the other family members there. And we're more often than not, we will have the family member and the loved one that struggling with addiction face each other in group, and then just have the addict or alcoholics ask the family member, how's my addiction affected you? And just be quiet. And then they just get the dump. And then, but we make sure after that what about the good things you see? What do you need from them? Stuff like that. But I think the main thing is that family members want to be heard. They need to be heard, just like an addict or alcoholic needs to be heard. So like you sit there and you give them that chance just to vent, and it's in a safe place, and it's not bad. A clinician's not gonna let, a good clinician's not gonna let somebody just get bashed the whole time. So that's and knowing that they're together, and they get that support from the other family members in the room, so they can look up and you'll see some head nods, like, I agree. And the addict and alcoholic in the room get support from the addicts and alcoholics in the room. That's why it's so great running the dual groups together. And the separate groups are obviously separate because they're great, because they can talk about stuff that would really hurt the other person. But they can get it out and talk about it, both family members and the addicts and alcoholics.
Yeah. I know when I just started working with NAMI, I was looking at all the programs and just seeing what we have to offer in our family to family, our family support group. Actually, I did go to it, and to both of your points, the support that each person gives one another and bouncing ideas. If one person tried something, maybe the other person hadn't, but they're in a similar situation. It's so beautiful, even though I wasn't in the situation. But just sitting there and seeing the support they have for one another, and it was just amazing.
Yeah,
so
sure. It's great to see. And it's really great to see when they're coming together, when everybody's on the same page. And most people, once they get sober, they want family involved. They want that support. They feel bad. We help deal with that guilt and shame and all that underlying stuff. But they want to be the part of it.
Yeah, definitely. So over your 15 years in the field, how have you seen the conversation around addiction and mental health evolve?
More focused on dual diagnosis, way more focused on dual diagnosis because it's a necessity. We've seen way more dual clients, way more people with mental health that's being unaddressed, and that's why they're continuing the use. There's way more focus on MATs, medicated assisted treatment, MOUDs for opiate disorder. So there's that conversation. It's more of a holistic approach by everybody. You have to, you can't just address, it's not a one issue disease, it's a multiple issue disease. And there's been the stigma hasn't gotten worse, I don't think. It's still the same.
Yeah.
But it hasn't gotten worse, which is great, because it could have been way worse. It could have got worse every year, and the next thing you know, you're afraid to say you have and we don't want that. So that's some of the changes I've seen too.
Yeah.
I love that. I think it's what we always say is we hope, since we're called the stigma stompers, point is to stomp out the stigma. We really truly do hope one day that this podcast isn't needed and people feel comfortable talking about their addiction or their mental health struggles and things like that, because we all struggle with something. No matter who we are, we're struggling with something, whether that be addiction, mental health, or something else. We should feel open to talk about it.
100%. Yeah.
So I know you probably experience a lot of tough days, and it's not an easy field to work in. So what keeps you motivated to keep doing the work that you do?
First and foremost, knowing that I'm truly doing something trying to help people. And then it's a blessing being in the field as long as I have and working at the same place for as long as I have, because it's often a thankless field, especially when I was an inpatient counselor, because you see them for the 28 to 30 days and then you never see them again. But being at the same field, I get those phone calls every once in a while. I just saw someone at an event who I had in treatment in intensive outpatient when I was a counselor. They just hit 10 years sober. They got their master's in social work. They're working in the field. Life's great. Seeing that stuff is what keeps you going. Getting those phone calls, I can honestly say that they do all the work. We just point them in the right directions. but it's nice to hear like you're the reason I'm sober. You know, it's nice to hear that.
Yeah.
I get calls from a couple guys from my literal first caseloads. You know, when I was clinical. So, you know, 11, 12 years, they call me all the time, still saying they're still sober. Wow. So that's what keeps me going. Being able to address this sounds crazy because most people don't like this, but you know, trainings and stuff help too, because then you can have new ways to approach things. EMDR was a real game changer for me, because you know, after 15 years of doing this, things get a little monotonous. So you know, learning new skills, learning new trainings, learning new evidence-based stuff that you can use, techniques, stuff like that, is really cool. That keeps me going too.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Is there anything else that you want anyone to know about Glenbeigh, recovery, whatever?
No, just that, you know, we're here to help if you need help.
And how can they find more information about Glenbeigh?
So they can either go to our website, www.glenbeigh.com. They can call our 800 number, 1-800-234-1001. And that's our ask for admissions and talk there. They can call up our outpatient center in Erie. I'm available to answer questions for anybody. All my staff is too. So it's pretty easy. And I want to say too, it's as simple as just Googling sometimes, just saying drug and alcohol treatment in Erie, a bunch of the providers pop right up. You know, just making that phone call, and then, you know, you'll get somebody on the phone there's a lot of good people in Erie, a lot of good providers, a lot of ethical providers. They'll talk to you and they'll ask you, what do you need? What's your situation? Talk to you and have you come in for an assessment. If, you know, MATs is the route you need to go, they'll help you get that. If that's not the route, they'll help you the other way, you know. So that's how. Just give us a call, look on the website, give me a holler if you see me on the road. Like, throw a rock at my car or something. It's all good.
Please don't do that.
Yeah.
Well, cool. Well, thank you very, very much
Sure.
for joining us.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thanks.
We appreciate everything and sharing a lot of the information that honestly I didn't know. And I love all the programs that you have, and the specific ones for first responders. I think I did not know that existed.
Sure.
So that's absolutely amazing that that's out there. So we truly appreciate you being here with us today, taking the time to talk to us and our audience. And if you're watching and you're struggling, please don't hesitate to reach out to Glenbeigh or to us or anyone, no matter what you're going through. We're here for you.
And on that, we'll say goodbye. Happy New Year again. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.
Hello, and thank you for watching this week's episode of Stigma Stompers, NAMI of Erie County, PA's one and only podcast. We put out new episodes every second and fourth Monday of the month, so if you want updates on those and little sneak peeks on what's to come, make sure you check out NAMI Erie on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn.
And you can also find us on our website, namierie.org, where you can find updates and anything going on and what we're up to in the community. Also, you can sign up for the newsletter on there, make a donation. Any proceeds that we receive go back to us to be able to support our community by providing free mental health resources, education, and community events.
And speaking of supporting us, if you want to support us and also look cute while doing it, you can go to our website and click on T-shirt store, and we have all kinds of shirts available. There's holiday ones, all kinds of things. So you can buy a shirt, look cute, and we get a portion of the proceeds to, like Janana said, continue doing all of our free support groups, classes, etc.
And if you are struggling, please do not hesitate to reach out to us. You can find us again on namierie.org, or you can give us a call by calling 814-456-1773. Or if you feel more comfortable, you can also email us at info@namierie.org. You're not alone, and we're here to help.
Yes.
Thank you. Bye.